All right, so my name is Sunil Nagarkar. I am the tech lead for Google's Android Emergency Location Service.
Oh, no, it's not. Just keep the key.
Oh, perfect. All right, got it working now. Okay, so what is Android's Emergency Location Service? Well, I recall an earlier presenter mentioning that you have NG911, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have better location. Well, better location is kind of what we're all about here. The idea behind the emergency location service is we want to take the same location that's available on all Google phones. This is the same location you get in Google Maps and Uber and apps like that. And we want to get that straight into PSAPs and into the hands of call takers. So there are a couple of points I want to hit about that. One, we're offering this as a supplemental service. This is not intended to replace control plane. We're offering this in addition to control plane. We want to kind of supplement the information that's already there. Second, this just works. There is no app that's necessary to install. This is present on 99% of all Android devices. The user does not have to configure this in any way. They don't have to touch anything. They don't have to buy a new phone or upgrade their hardware or anything like that. We've also designed this to be extremely easy to integrate for our partners. We use some very simple methods of transmitting the location. Anybody should be able to kind of set up an endpoint to receive this in a very short amount of time. I'll cover that in a second. And finally, and hopefully one of the most important points, is free for all partners. We are not charging for this at all. There is no profit motive here. The only thing we want is to help keep our Android users safer. On the right side here, you can see some of our current stats. We're already deployed and live in 14 countries around the world. We're currently working to bring this to the United States as well, which is why we're here. So I'm sure you guys are all kind of familiar with this. I've organized kind of the FCC roadmap for emergency location to a little table to make it easier to visualize. You can see the plan from 2015 through to 2022. Currently, Google believes we're at the 2019 location standards here. In fact, I would go so far as to say that if you're taking into account just kind of horizontal XY location, we're probably at the 2020 standards. Z-axis, altitude, that's something we're investing a lot of time and research in right now. Earlier this year, we launched a new indoor altitude API, and we're currently doing a lot of research on how to turn this into floor level, which is, of course, what's going to be useful to first responders and people actually taking the calls in the PSAP. The upshot here is that within 1 year, we believe we're going to be at the 2022 location standards, okay? So 80% within 50 meters, 100% have handsets Z capable. So let me give a quick overview, 4 simple steps kind of at a high level of how ELS actually works. So as I mentioned, this is present on all Android phones already today. When the user dials 911 or makes an emergency call, we detect that, we activate. We use the Android Fuse location provider, the location provider that's present on all Android phones, to start deriving location and figuring out location on the handset. Once the handset has derived its location, we are going to send that through to a partner endpoint. Partners are, we can work with carriers, we can work with third parties in the emergency services, anybody who can kind of build an endpoint to receive our location information and can get that through into the PSAP. And several of our partners are in the room today as well. Once the location gets to the endpoint, it is then the partner's responsibility to make sure that it gets through to the PSAP in front of call takers. I want to quickly go over some test results. This was a deep indoor test conducted by a Tier 1 US carrier we're hoping to launch with soon. They compared traditional AGPS and cell, so phase 1 and phase 2 location versus ELS location. I want you to note that the AGPS and cell yields add up to 100% there, so it's kind of comparing either AGPS or cell to the ELS location. You can see we had a yield of 90%, and if you look at the 67th and 90th percentile errors in both these cases, you notice that we are substantially better at 17 and 18 meters respectively as compared to even AGPS, which is 43 and 107 meters respectively. Let me briefly cover how this is kind of all configured and controlled. I mentioned this is present on all Android devices. That doesn't necessarily mean this is active on all Android devices. We work with our partners to kind of answer 3 basic questions. When should ELS be activated? How is the location gathered? And where should we send the location? On the right side, you can see kind of a brief sample, simplified configuration. This happens to represent our configuration for the UK. If the user dials 911 or 112, if the phone is in the UK, we gather location, send it to that endpoint, so on and so forth. And finally, I want to leave you with some success stories that we've had. I mentioned that we are already live in 14 countries. These are anecdotes direct from police and first responders in 2 countries. First in New Zealand, a group that was kind of backpacking in the Bay of Plenty. They became lost. They were able to make a 111 call, the emergency number in New Zealand, and we were able to deliver a 6-meter GPS location. Search and Rescue was able to use that to come in, find them immediately, walk them out. In Estonia, some kids were at home, their toaster caught on fire. You know, they called 112 as they'd been trained to do. Unfortunately, while they knew their flat and street number, they did not know their complete address. They didn't know any of their relatives' information. Luckily, we were able to deliver a Wi-Fi location and get the ambulance and first responders there to take care of that situation. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Steve.
Great. Thanks, Sunil. My name is Steve Malkos. I'm one of the leads in Android location. And what I'd like to do is show a couple of demos and just highlight what Sunil was just going through. So the first one is going to be a video. Let's see if I could. Give me 1 second. All right. So Sunil talked about how in ELS it's highly configurable. We could output the position in any way the destination endpoint would like to receive it. We created this visualization tool, and that's all that we're showing here is just visualize how the ELS location can make it to the destination endpoint, can make it to the PSAP. So if a carrier came to us and said, hey, we want a position every second from ELS, this is what they would see, and this is just driving around in our Mountain View office. The other demo kind of visualization that I want to show you is We have this, we call it our Thunderbird app. Thunderbird is our internal name for ELS, External Emergency Location Services in Android. And basically what this is going to showcase is if I, let's see, I'm going to offset this to a different area. I have a phone here that's whitelisted through one of the carriers. So I have the ability to dial 911 on this phone, and it'll route to the carrier's network, but it won't actually go to the carrier. So if I dial 911 on here and hit send, it's connecting. A lot of you won't be able to see this here, but the position will update on the map. In Android, we also show the actual we show the actual position on the screen, and we actually output the lat long on the screen as well. So if someone's in distress and their location can't get there, you could see that on the screen and read it to the PSAP. So here we are. The position dialed in. It centered on the screen because it updated it. It refreshed automatically. And these are all the parameters and fields that we send in ELS: the lat, long, the uncertainty of the position or the accuracy. This is deep indoors, and you could see here we gave an uncertainty of 15 meters with a vertical accuracy of 2. And we output, as Sunil mentioned, the altitude. This is the actual altitude to the WGS 84 standard, which is what's outputted in GPS. So negative for this building, negative 19. I think this area is around negative 40 at ground, so it's spot on. And Sunil's going to zoom in, and we could see the actual position, which is exactly the wing that we're in this building. So that's it for the demo. I just want to note, this is already available in every Android phone, as Sunil noted. We just need carriers or our partners dealing with in the emergency space to turn it on. Thank you. Sure. Questions? So all GPS components that are shipped in the U.S. have GPS and GLONASS enabled. And so what we do is we fuse the positions together. We have our GPS position, our Wi-Fi position, our sensors to do PDR, and we output that through the fused location provider. And we're not inventing anything new here. Our team does the fused location provider. We're just trying to surface the position that's already available in Android to the emergency responders. One more question? Okay, thank you.